Hello, everyone. Welcome to our video on issue spotting essays. In this video, I'm going to go over the key concepts of issue spotting, and then we'll go over an official uniform bar exam essay question to show you how to apply these concepts. Now, real quick background, the essay or MEE portion of the bar exam consists of 6 essays, which have to be finished in 3 hours. This means that you have 30 minutes per essay, and you must complete them back to back. Now, when it comes to the essay portion of the bar exam, timing is everything, and good timing requires organization. When it comes to organization, there are 4 keys. The first one is issue spotting properly. The second is stating the relevant rules succinctly. The third is applying law to facts individually. And the last one is concluding correctly. Altogether, this makes the acronym IRAC. Today, I'm just going to be discussing the I portion in IRAC. If you really want to identify 4 things. First, you want to identify the subject that the essay is about, which is typically located at the top part of the essay. Next, you want to determine the topic within the subject that is being discussed in the essay. Typically, but not always, the cause of the question will likely clue you in as to what the topic being tested is. Third, you want to look at the party or parties as to whom you're asked to analyze the issue. This will almost always come from the call of the question, but sometimes you're really not going to see who you have to analyze to until you get into the facts, and that's okay. And lastly, you have to identify what the actual rule triggered is, because that's essentially what you're going to analyze and get points for. The rule will almost always be determined once you get into the facts of the essay. So altogether, again, it's subject, topic, party, and rule. So this is STPR, or as I like to call it, suntanning in Puerto Rico, which is what I wish I was doing right now, but I digress. So let's get into doing a real NCBE essay question and work on our issue spotting techniques. Okay, so here we are. Now we're going to go over a real past essay question from the Uniform Bar Exam. By the way, these are available on the NCBE's website for free, and they usually include the answer there so that you can go over the question and determine if you've answered it correctly or not. So again, our acronym was STPR, suntanning in Puerto Rico. So the first thing that we want to identify is the subject. And as I said, this is typically available to you right at the top of the essay. It's the first thing that you read. So here we know that we're discussing a real property question. Now, for the purposes of this demo, we're just going to go over the first question of the 3 that is being asked in this essay. So next, we want to discuss the topic. In the topic, like I said, we will usually find it in the call of the question. So we're going to look at question 1. So the question reads, immediately before Sue sold Whiteacre to Dan, did Sue have an easement over Blackacre? So what are the clues that we can identify, right? We know we're in property world now. So what are the clues that we can identify from the call of the question? Well, we know that we are going to be discussing an easement, right? And we need to figure out if an easement existed immediately before. Now, that takes care of S and T. Now we're on to the P part, right? The party that we're going to analyze this for. So again, it says immediately before Sue sold Whiteacre to Dan, did Sue have an easement over Blackacre? So we're going to analyze this as to Sue. So now we know in our issue spotting who we need to analyze this for and what it is that we're looking for, right? And so we're looking to see if Sue had an easement immediately before she sold Whiteacre to Dan. So now we've gone essentially and narrowed it down from all the rules in the world of real estate and property down to rules on easement. And we're going to narrow it down even more to whatever rules are applicable to the facts that relate to Sue immediately before she sold Whiteacre to Dan. So let's go and read the facts and try and find the R portion. So again, we determined the subject from the top, from the call to question, we determined the topic, which is easements, and we've determined what party we need to analyze it for, which is Sue immediately before she sold Whiteacre to Dan. Now let's identify the rule from the facts that we need to spot and discuss. So Blackacre, which is immediately to the west of Whiteacre, is bounded on its west by a state highway. Whiteacre is bounded to the east by a county road. Both roads connect to a 4-lane highway. 20 years ago, Tom, who then owned Blackacre, sold to Sue, who then owned Whiteacre, an easement over a private gravel road that crossed Blackacre. Okay, so let's stop right there. We know that Tom sold to Sue an easement over a private gravel road, right? So now we know that if an easement was sold, let's keep going here. It says this easement allowed Sue significantly better access to the 4-lane highway from Whiteacre than she had using only the county road adjacent to Whiteacre. The easement was promptly and properly recorded. So now we know that Sue had an easement. She got it from Tom. But remember, the question is asking you about immediately before she sold Whiteacre to Dan. So as far as we know, no Dan has been introduced to the facts. So we need to keep going to determine what the rule is. So after acquiring this easement, Sue discontinued using the county road to the east of Whiteacre and used the private gravel road crossing Blackacre to travel between Whiteacre and the 4-lane highway. Sue used the private gravel road across Blackacre for that purpose almost every day for the next 18 years. 15 years ago, Sue purchased Blackacre from Tom. The deed from Tom, the deed from Tom to Sue was promptly and properly recorded. So this is another critical fact. Now we know that Sue purchased Blackacre from Tom. Now, if you remember here, Blackacre was owned by Tom, right? Because Tom who owned Blackacre. So now Sue owns both Whiteacre and Blackacre. So she owns the property over which she had an easement for. Now, this is critical because you cannot legally own an easement over your own property, because what is the definition of an easement? It's a non-possessory interest in another person's land. Well, if it's not another person's land, you can't have a non-possessory interest because you own the land and therefore it's yours. So you can do whatever you want. You don't need an easement over it. So now we know that Sue does not have an easement. But what is the name of the rule that tells us that you cannot have an easement over your own property? It's merger. So once you acquire land that you previously had an easement over, your easement will extinguish by merger, right? And so therefore, we know that at this point, once Sue acquired from Tom Blackacre, she no longer had an easement. So at this point, up here, Sue had an easement, right? So Sue easement. Now, here, because she purchased Blackacre, then Sue, no easement. And that continues to clue us in as to what the rule that is going to be triggered is, because, so no easement, because there was merger, which is the rule. It's one of the ways in which an easement can extinguish. Now, again, the call to question says immediately before Sue sold Whiteacre to Dan. So let's keep going just in case something else happens in the facts that we don't know about, because again, we haven't even heard from Dan. So 2 years ago, Sue sold Whiteacre to Dan. The deed from Sue to Dan, which was promptly and properly recorded, did not mention the private gravel road crossing Blackacre, although Dan was aware that Sue had used the road to more easily access the 4-lane highway. So at this point, the transaction between Sue and Dan has happened. It tells us that no mention of the easement was made, but that's not really here or there as to the first question, because the first question is asking us immediately before Sue sold Whiteacre to Dan, did Sue have an easement over Blackacre? And we know from our issue spotting that she did not, because it likely extinguished by merger when she acquired Blackacre from Tom. And so at this point, there's nothing else that we need from the facts to identify and discuss, analyze, apply, and conclude on the rule that will answer the first question of this essay. So again, remember, it's STPR, okay? And we determined from up here, from the name of the essay, that it was a real property question. Then we determined the topic that was being tested, which was easements over here, and the parties, which was Sue, who is the party we were being asked to analyze if she had an easement or not. And then from reading the facts, we concluded that Sue's easement had extinguished, likely extinguished by merger when she acquired Blackacre from Tom. So again, to recap, you want to always remember when you're issue spotting that you want to narrow it down. And the way you narrow it down is through the acronym Suntanning in Puerto Rico. Subject, topic, party, and rule. Remember that you're going to identify the subject of the essay by looking at the top left corner of the essay, which will tell you what it's about. Then you're going to try and determine the topic from the call of the question, if possible, which typically you can. Then you want to identify the party that you need to analyze for, which you will also typically do from the call of the question, but sometimes from the facts. And lastly, you want to identify the rule that you need to discuss, and that will be the remainder of your IRAC from the facts that are given to you in the essay. I hope that this was helpful to you guys. Please check out our other videos.